All right, Kevin, back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Ron Douglas. Ron, welcome, man. Awesome to have you.
Great to be here, Kevin. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, and you and I were just this is the first because you and I, man, we go back a long ways. I mean, we're talking back to like '08, '09 time frame, and we're talking before we hit the record button, trying to remember who connected us way back when. And we think it might have been Greg Caesar. And so, Greg, if you're hearing this, maybe it was you.
Yeah, may have been great.
But we're getting older, and my mind's not quite as sharp as it was.
Right. Well, you've probably met thousands of people since then, so it's
Ah,
hard to keep up with everything.
well, and you know what's interesting is that I remember back in the day, I you had this cookbook that was just going like gangbusters. And I was like, I was just like, man, look at this stuff that Ron is doing. and so, and I just thought it was really cool that we got connected because you were one of those guys that I'm like, man, I was just really inspired by because I'm like, man, here's a guy who's doing some really big stuff in the world. And now here we are all these years later and catching up to have this conversation. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to have this. I'm looking forward to this. And
Yeah, we've been friends a long time, man. I appreciate connecting with you again for this podcast. Thanks for
yeah,
having me on.
you
Yeah, I
bet.
appreciate what you're saying about the cookbooks too. I was in awe too. I couldn't believe it was happening like the way it was happening. It was a surreal experience. I'm not even a chef, so I'm on
You
television
know, right?
cooking. Yeah,
Well,
so.
you'll have to maybe give us some backstory and share some.
Yeah, you never know where this business will take you,
That's
right?
right.
If you
That's
stick
right.
with it.
That's right. Well, why don't we start by? I'll turn over to you so that you can set a little bit of context and let the listeners know. So, share a little bit about what you do, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work you do, and even give us some of the backstory about how you got here and stuff.
Right. Well, presently, I run an event called WebinarCon, and we teach people how to run webinars and how to get more business, more sales, more clients, how to serve more people using webinars as a platform. So we have a mastermind and coaching around that topic. But didn't start out that way. I started out just as an affiliate marketer, promoting products on ClickBank,
Okay.
building little email lists back in the days before Google, when Google Google AdWords, the Google advertising platform, first came out. You can get traffic for dirt cheap back then. So I was
Five
buying
cents a
clicks.
click, man.
Yeah, 5 cents a click. Yeah. So I caught on to that trend. So I mean, my whole career has been a series of catching trends and being in the right place in the right time. And sometimes when you know what you want and you walk a certain path, you start to notice trends and things start to happen. And people think like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Like, when's my breakthrough going to come? The breakthrough often comes when you're walking in that direction, walking towards it, and it kind of finds you sometimes through relationships, as we'll talk about, and just being in the industry, being in the game. So it's kind of how it happened for me. I was doing affiliate marketing, promoting products, and I was also doing some direct mail, promoting information products and different things through the mail. And I
Okay.
had a PO box, and one day it just hit me like it would be cool. I'm promoting all these people's products. It would be cool if I had a product and everybody was promoting me. I had a bunch of people like me promoting my product. And I was promoting stuff on ClickBank. So I was like, what can I put on ClickBank that's different, that's going to stand out, that's going to rank well in their marketplace, and it's going to attract a lot of other sites, other blogs and whatnot, other affiliates to
Okay.
promote my product. So as I was, marketing stuff through direct mail, I got this ad one day to my PO box, and it was an ad that said you can buy the resale rights to 10 secret restaurant recipes,
Okay.
and and that just started a whirlwind for me. So I bought that. I'm like, this would be cool if I could put this on ClickBank in their cooking category. There's nothing like that out there. So I had these 10 secret recipes, and I started looking, and it took me down that path of this is a niche that people want to learn about, right? So I created this little ebook, added some more recipes to it, and I put it on ClickBank, started selling it for $20. these secret restaurant recipes, like dishes from like Red Lobster, Olive Garden. So it was our version of it. We tested a bunch of recipes. Some of them we just straight rewrote because there's no copyright on recipes. So we would take the base recipe, add some different things to it, change it up, make it ours, publish it. And then I was working at JP Morgan Chase at the time. And I remember being at lunch one day, checking my stats, and the sales started coming. Boom, 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 boom. Like that day, I might have made $80 worth of sales. And then someone had found it, some other site that had a following, found that in ClickBank and started promoting it.
Okay.
And, that just started happening over and over again. And I started investing more time into this particular thing. And before you know it, I was the number one product on ClickBank, had this book. People wanted a physical copy of it. I remember being in my first physical copy of this cookbook was, and I'm telling the story because that cookbook went on to become a big thing, like you just mentioned earlier. But my first physical copy, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to create a physical copy. Just printed it out, took it to Staples, and I had it spiral bounded because I used to work at Staples back in the day. That was my first job out of college. So I had this spiral bounded book that I was selling for $20. So if people bought the ebook, I would say, hey, you might want to buy the physical book. And for everybody that bought the ebook, I'd be like, just send us $10 and we'll give you the physical book because a lot of people started asking for it.
Okay.
So I remember one day being in the copy center at Staples, and this lady comes up to me and she's like, ooh, what's that? And she starts looking, through the pages. And I'm like, well, it's a book that I sell. And I kind of took it back from her. And she snatches it out of my hand. She's like, is that Red Lobster's cheddar biscuits recipe? And she's like, oh, can I buy this from you? And she bought a copy right there on the spot. So I knew that it was something that was hot. This old lady was going to steal it from me. And she gave me $20 right on the spot. So I started really investing more into that and became a big thing. Ended up getting a book deal with Simon & Schuster. Ended up publishing that book. I ended up doing 6 books with Simon & Schuster, and collectively they've sold 1.5 million copies. I became a New York Times bestselling author, got on television, hired a publicist. So we're going to talk about relationships, but there was one relationship in particular that led to that book deal, that led to me getting a bunch of television appearances, that kind of spearheaded my career. And from there, I started teaching people what I do, how to publish books, how to get a book deal, how to build an audience online, all these type of things. And I started running webinars, and today I'm known as a webinar expert because I've done so many of them. But it started out all from that original cookbook project.
Wow. Now, and I've not heard the story about the relationship, so now I'm really curious about this. And so, it's really interesting how it just continues to build. We continue to build on things over time. You started with the book and learning how to do affiliate marketing and stuff, and then it led to a book deal, and then you led to you doing webinars, and I mean and now you do this whole thing around WebinarCon, teaching other people how to do what you've done, and it's like just step, just continue on, in this natural progression. And so now that we've got a little bit of context set here and stuff, let's circle on, and I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of the listeners. So, Ron, have you ever met or been introduced to a person or persons that completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Right. Yeah. I would say that if I had to narrow it down to one person, it would be my friend Tom Bill.
Okay.
Right. And if it had to be 2 people, it would be Tom Bill and Mike Filsame, because they kind of work together.
Okay.
And they were working. So I lived on Long Island at the time, and they were my local Long Island gurus. And Mike was a big inspiration for me back then. He was one of the first guys to do $1 million product launch. This is going back to maybe 2006, maybe.
Okay.
2006, 2007, something like that. So I met them in 2006 or 2007 at an event, and it was an event for the Warrior Forum. It was a bulletin board place, Warrior Forum, where we all used to go and talk and hang out. This was prior to Facebook becoming a big thing.
Okay.
and
Okay.
there was a luncheon that they put on for people that were part of that forum. And I went to it, and, because I knew Mike Filsaime was going to be there. So I was like, I got to meet this guy. So I went, met Mike, and met Tom Bill. And at the time, I had the cookbooks already going. This is before I got a book deal or anything. I was just self-publishing, and I had sold, 60,000 copies self-published between 2004 and 2007
All
at
right.
that point. So when I met them in 2007, uh, Tom Bill, he, I told him what I do, and at the time he was working with former football player Jim Kelly, and he was helping him with a project, and they were trying to get publicity for that project for Jim. And I told him about what I'm doing with the cookbooks, and he was like, "Wow, that's different. I don't know anybody that's doing that type of thing. Everybody else is just selling like, you know, widgets, plugins, make money online type stuff." And he's like, "You're different. And by the way, did you know that the media would love that story? Like, you can get some publicity for that. This could be on TV. This is much bigger than you think. It's much bigger than a simple little ClickBank product or an Amazon self-published book. This could be huge." Like, and he opened my eye, and it's like a light bulb moment. I'm like, "Really? You think so?" And he opened my eye to, man, this is much bigger than I think it is, because a lot of people are into this topic. So from there, I also later on met Mike Filsaime's publicist, a guy named Adam Weiss. And Adam was looking for success stories of people that had bought Mike's products. And I
Okay.
was one of the people, one of his customers. So he was interviewing me for Mike. And then again, I started telling him my story. And then he's like, "Man, this is an even better story than what Mike has going. I can get you some publicity for this. We can get you on TV. You can, on the cooking shows, they're always looking for, chefs and whatnot." And I wasn't a chef, but I was like, I'll go in there and cook. I don't care. So had Tom not opened my eyes to the possibility, I probably wouldn't have been so eager to, want to sign up with Adam and pay him to be my publicist and go
Yeah.
down that route. So Tom really opened my eyes to what's possible. And Mike, through his connections, got me a publicist. So that same publicist got me on, Fox Business I was on Fox Business with a self-published cookbook, right before I
Wow.
got the book
Wow.
deal. Then we used that interview, and we pitched it to different. We hired a literary agent, and we pitched it to different publishing houses. And within 6 weeks, we had two book deals on the table. One was $100,000 advance to do two books with Simon and Schuster, and we jumped on that deal. And then from there, I was able to get publicity and get on TV, and working with this publicist and get on more shows like Good Morning America, Fox and Friends, Home Shopping Network, ABC News Now, all these different shows. I mean, I estimate that I probably easily had over $1 million worth of free advertising
Mhm.
from the media. And then that first cookbook became a New York Times bestseller in 2000 2009. It
Okay.
became a New York Times bestseller, and ended up selling. That one book sold 800,000 copies, and then
Wow.
I did five more books with them that have collectively sold probably close to 1.7 million at this point. So
Wow.
that really
Wow.
propelled my career in
Yeah.
terms of people wanting to learn from me and wanting to know how I did these things, and people wanting to have me on their stage and speaking engagements and podcasts like this and all that stuff. So um, that conversation changed a lot for me. It changed the trajectory of my career. I
Totally.
think, yeah.
Wow. And you sold that company at one point. What year did you sell that company?
Uh, 2016
Okay. Okay.
sold that business. Yeah, I
Okay.
think it was
And
16 or
so
17.
how did you happen to get into doing webinars? Where did that fit in, Ron?
Right, webinars. So I was an online marketer before the cookbook thing. I knew all the other online marketers. I was in that industry, and I had a friend. His name is Keith Daughtery, and he approached me. He's like, "Hey, man, I have this webinar because I had a cooking list at the time, an email
Okay.
list of people interested in recipes." He was like, he had this product that helped people create cookbooks. It's like a software that helped you create a cookbook and
Okay.
publish it on Amazon. And he was like, "I think maybe your folks might be interested in this topic."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Well, I don't typically do webinars." This was 2010. He was like, "Well, let's try." So I promoted it. And we made a bunch of money from this. And I'm like, wow, this was a pretty cool promotion. My list really loved it. And then he said, hey, I also have an opening because I promote webinars too. In 3 weeks, you can come on and do a presentation for my people. And I was like, well, I don't have a webinar. He was like, well, put one together and let's go. Let's do it. So, so I ended up putting together an offer and putting in that 3 weeks, putting together a webinar presentation. And I remember that first webinar made something like $7,500. And I
Okay.
was like, wow, this is the easiest money ever. You just talk for an hour and a half, answer people's questions, and then sell your product. People get to know, like, and trust you during this presentation, and they want to buy from you. They want to, take the next step and continue learning from you, and that's it. And then it got even easier when I started doing recorded webinars. So I would take my best presentation and play it back in a recording in a live environment where
Yeah.
we would answer their questions live, but we'd be playing the recording. So I
Yeah.
didn't even have to do the live webinars anymore after a while. So that was even easier than the other webinar money. So
I
it's been a long
remember
journey.
my epiphany with that because when and I never did webinars. I never did webinars, but I did teleseminars, and I did hundreds of them over the years.
Yeah.
And I, for a long time, I did them all live. And because I was doing strategic partnering, I would usually have my partner get on at the beginning to introduce me to their people, and then they might stay there for the presentation or they might leave. Either way, it didn't matter. But I did one where my partner had got his wires crossed and on the time, and he wasn't there to introduce me. And I thought, oh shoot, I'm just going to have to roll with this, and it's probably going to impact results. And it didn't at all. Didn't impact results at all. And it occurred to me, I'm like, my gosh, he didn't need to be there to introduce me on the teleseminar. He'd already introduced me via the emails and stuff. And I'm like, I wonder what would happen if I just did this recording instead of me being here. So I tested that, and I'm like, wow, I don't have to do this live anymore. And so I switched to recording from then on out. and I'll tell you,
Wow.
that was such an epiphany, Ron, because I'm like, I'm doing these hour and a half presentations like 3-4 times a week, and I'm like, I just freed up all this time.
Right, right, yeah.
Oh,
And it kind of burns you out after a while, just
yeah,
doing the same presentation, multiple times a week. So if you
yeah,
can get the recording producing, and this is pretty much the same thing, right? I mean, people are getting the same value, the same content, the
totally,
same information,
totally.
and then you could
Well,
have
they were
someone there
getting me at my
moderating.
best every time then,
Right,
because I
right.
just made a great recording and everybody got me at my best.
Right, and you could have someone there live moderating their questions,
Yeah,
especially with a webinar. I don't know about a teleseminar, or you could with a teleseminar, you could have played the recording and then come on and do a live Q&A
yeah,
after the recording finished. So there's
yeah,
so many different ways you could take it. I mean, we start, people software came out where you could just have the thing playing every 15 minutes, like
yeah,
automatically, so we did
yeah,
that as well. So, I mean, that didn't convert as well, but you could have it running all day long, all night long. So you made up for it in volume. So you ended up getting more sales from that because of the number of times the presentation could run.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, we made, millions of dollars with webinars, and it's impressive. Like, you're a true OG. You've made millions of dollars with teleseminars. I remember promoting your teleseminar, first teleseminar I've ever promoted. I'm like, wow, I was skeptical. I'm like, is this going to work? And we made some money, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, so now I'm curious because I knew that I never participated in WebinarCon, but I knew it's been going because I'm friends with Andy and stuff, but I would like to just kind of hear how did that come to be as well? How did that come to be? And because that's turned out to be a pretty big deal too and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's the number one event for webinar marketing. Like,
Yeah.
there's no other focus specifically on that. Yeah, that was about relationships also. Right. So, um, our fellow friend Greg Caesar, he's also friends with Onyx Singal, and
Mhm.
he was actually one of first, like, coaches, first,
Okay.
like, mentors back in the days. So Greg's been doing it, I think, since maybe the 90s, like 99 or something. And I remember when Onyx was first getting started, Greg told me that Onyx reached out to him for help, and he
Okay.
helped Onyx. So Onyx was always grateful. So being that Greg was a friend, I just kind of dropped Greg's name to get in with Onyx. And at that time, Onyx was doing multiple 8 figures with his business, and I knew he was kind of like the 800-pound gorilla at the time in the industry. So I was trying to build a relationship with him and learn from him and get connected with him. And we were connected online, and he had made a post saying, he has this 26,000 square foot facility in Maryland called the Learn Center.
Okay.
And he was looking for people who wanted to throw an event at the Learn Center. And one of our fellow friends, also Ty Cohen, had just thrown an event there at the Learn Center, and Onyx was publishing Ty's product at the time. And I saw that post, and I was like, you know what? I'd love to throw an event there, because I was throwing little weekend masterminds on the topic of webinars. So he asked me, hey, what do you want it to be about? I was like, well, I do presentations and teach about webinars. And he was like, man, I love that topic. I do a lot of webinars. That would be pretty cool. And he said, Andy, so Andy Hassan had also reached out to him to do an event related to webinars, because at the time Andy was brokering webinars. He was a joint venture broker. He would set up deals, cross promotions amongst people that present webinars. And he said, maybe you and Andy might want to partner up and do it together. So I knew Andy at the time through the industry. We were friends. I reached out to Andy. I was like, hey, let's see what happens. Let's do an event, see where it goes. Anik kind of hinted that he would help us, get it off the ground, because he was looking for more people to do events there at his facility.
Okay.
So, so we went back to, we agreed that we were going to do it. We were expecting to get maybe 15 people, 20 people. And we went back to Anik and we asked him how much was the price to do an event there. And it was like something crazy. Like it was like 25,000 a night or something. It was just like way too much that we more than we wanted to spend. Right? And we were like, well, we can get a hotel down the street. And he was like, you know what? I like this idea so much. I'll partner with you guys on the idea and we'll do it together. And it was like, wow, like Anik wants to do an event with us. This is amazing. So we were, once Anik was on board, we were expecting to get maybe 50 people. That was his goal. 50 people. We were charging $5,000 a head for this mastermind weekend event. And this was in 2020, right before the pandemic hit. In fact, we had the event 6 days before that building was forced to be shut down in 2020 before the pandemic. I remember we had Purell at all the tables. We had people coming from overseas. Nobody knew what to expect at that point. We just knew something, bad was coming and people were getting sick. So we have the event, and we ended up selling out the entire Learn Center. They were adding different tables, trying to change the configuration to see how, who else we could put in there. And we ended up getting, I think it was 114 people.
Wow.
110, 114, something like that. Paid, 5,000, between 3,500 and 5,000. We discounted for some people. And that was a big hit. And then, luckily, we were going to push it back. We were like, because tickets were kind of slow, because with events, normally the last 3 weeks is when you get a lot of ticket sales. So we were going to push it back into April. Had we pushed it back, it might not have ever happened.
Yeah.
And now, like this year, we're going to do our fifth event, and it's gotten bigger and bigger every year. So now we're expecting 250 people.
Wow.
The same price point. We have sponsors and a lot of these big companies like ClickBank and Go High Level, and all these companies are sponsoring us. So it's become this big thing now. And it all started by, the desire to have, relationships and reaching out to Anik and saying yes, and, just putting my stuff out there and being prepared and ready to go when the opportunity came about.
Yeah. Wow. You're right, man. What a testament to the power of relationships, and like, it's been a theme throughout everything you've shared today.
Right.
Is, what a valuable role relationships have played in all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you think about WebinarCon also, at the time, Anik was a big marketing figure. I was doing a lot of different webinars with people. So Andy was brokering webinars. So between the three of us, we knew so many people in the industry. We didn't have to run any ads or anything to get the first event going. All we had to do is reach out to people, make posts on social media, start announcing who was coming. And before you know it, it dominoed and everybody wanted to come because we had this collectively, we knew a big chunk
Yeah.
of all the webinar marketers in our circle, in our
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So those relationships paid off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, I have long said that as entrepreneurs, relationships are the most valuable asset we have. Everything else stems from that and stuff. And you have just shown that again here. So for anybody listening to this going, man, Kev, I mean, if they haven't noticed your shirt by now, they got to open their eyes a little more. But any other resources? So we obviously know there's webinarcon.com. Webinar.com, and then any other resource, because I'm sure there's people listening going, man, Kev, I love Ron. I love what he stands for. I'd like to find out more about what they're doing. So any resources or websites you can let them know about?
Yeah. We have a weekly webinar. You can go to Ron Douglas, rondouglas.com.
Okay.
And, get some information on that and some of the other things I'm involved in. And you can reach me on social media. Mr. Ron Douglas is my handle.
Perfect.
Sure.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation. And, because like I shared earlier, the goal for this is really simple. As I have been using these interviews to just inspire our audience, which are also entrepreneurs, founders, and CEOs, to just place an intentional focus on creating more real, meaningful, rewarding, and profitable relationships in their own lives. And with you and your help today, we definitely achieved that. And so I want to thank you for that. Any last thing you feel led to share before we call it a wrap, Ron?
No, I'll just say, anybody out there that's trying to figure out their next thing, trying to, get some clarity on what they want to do, I would say, relationships, like you said, are everything. So find the people that are doing what you want to do, find where they hang out, go to their events, go to their groups online, sign up for their products, whatever you got to do to be exposed to the people that are doing the things that you want to do. And good things can't help but happen for you.
Absolutely. Well, once again, Ron, really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation, and thank you.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome. A lot of fun.
Yeah.